don't believe in an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a lie for a lie. I don't believe that justice is blind. Just look down the halls of the prison tonight. You locked him up when he was just a kid, for something I don't think he did. And if he did, it's still a fact that taking him won't bring them back. So how do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? When there's questions that need answers, how do you still take a chance? If you can't answer them, then take a swing at mine. How do you sleep at night? Is it justice or revenge? Doesn't matter in the end. To kill a man, you're still not sure. Did what you say you're gonna kill him for. So how do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? When there's questions that need answers, how do you still take a chance? If you can't answer them, then take a swing at mine. How do you sleep at night? It's not easy what you do, to feel it all rain down on you. All the questions and all the weight. We weren't built to hand out fate, but whatever happens, know there's grace. I see the lines across your face. How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? There's still questions that need answers. How do you still take a chance, sir? I hope you walk away one day and you feel alright. How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night?
And thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome. My name is Abe Bonowitz with Death Penalty Action. We're joined by a few other folks, and hopefully we'll be joined by more on our panel today as we recognize the and stand in prayerful protest virtually in opposition to the execution of Richard Djerf in Arizona in just under an hour, if everything goes as planned, which we would expect would happen. Death Penalty Action is grateful to be able to present these vigils and create the space for us all. It's a safe place for people who oppose the death penalty. So if there's any disruption in the Zoom audience or on the social media streams, of course, we'll be blocking and dealing with that without warning. So there's that. And then, of course, anybody that's on that's speaking today is, unless they're a board or staff member of Death Penalty Action, they will be speaking for themselves or their own organization and not identify themselves as such. And with that, we do have a couple of special guests that we hope to have soon. But as always, we're going to start with a remembrance of the victims in this case. It's a horrific crime that occurred that has resulted in what's going on today. We want to acknowledge that. And to do that, to help us do that in a prayerful way, is Cantor Mike Zusman from L'Chaim, Jews Against the Death Penalty. Welcome, Mike.
Shalom Aleichem. Peace unto you once again. Cantor Michael Zusman here with the thousands of members of L'Chaim, which means to life, Jews Against the Death Penalty, a project of death penalty action, over 4,000 members strong. If you're watching this video, it means that this is one of 4 scheduled executions in the United States of America this week alone. These executions take place at the joyous festival of Sukkot in the Jewish tradition, when we're told to be happy and rejoice. Impossible to do so in these circumstances. We always lament murder in any form, by an individual or by the state. In this case, we lament the murder by the state of Arizona of Richard Djerf. We also lament his alleged victims. Please join me in remembering this beautiful family now. They are Damien Javier Luna, born March 8th, 1988. His older sister, Rochelle Lynn Luna, born November 12th, 1974. Their mother, Patricia, who went by Patsy Valdez Luna, born September 25th, 1950, and her husband and their father, Albert Beltran Luna Sr., born August 9th, 1946. They were all murdered on September 14th, 1993. Damien was 5 years old. He had been born in Phoenix. Rochelle was 18, a Trevor Brown High School student born in Morenci. She was on the school's track team and was an employee of Smith's Food and Drug Centers. Patsy of Phoenix was a custodian born in Morenci. And Albert of Phoenix was a lab technician born in Douglas, and he was a veteran of the Vietnam War, as well as a member of the American Legion. No matter what your background, faith, tradition, spiritual, religious, secular, please join me in turning your attention now to their beloved memories. I'll offer this prayer, which in my traditions asks that their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal, under the presence of HaShekhinah, the divine. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. El Malenachamim Shochen Mamedomim Hamatzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah Mema'alot Kedoshim U'Tohorim Kezohar Rakia Mazhirim Et Nishmot Damien Javier Luna Viet Rochelle Luna the Patricia, Patsy, Valdez, Luna, the Albert Beltran, Luna Senior, Shehalachune Olamam, Began Eden, Hemenuchatam, Ana Baal Rachamim, Astirehem, Beseter Knafechal Olamim, Utzror Bitzror Achayim, Et Nishmotehem, Adonai Hu Nachlatam, Yanuchu V'Shalom Al Mishkavam, V'Nomar, Zichronam livracha. May their beloved memories be everlasting blessings, and their abiding spirits loving guides for us all. May their loved ones be comforted among all the mourners of the world. May no more blood be spilled in their sacred names. May all the killings end. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cantor Zusman. And yes, may all the killings end. Today's execution will be the 39th this year. And you have to go all the way back to 2013, since this country has had 39 executions in a single year. Judicial executions, I should say. And, you know, it's not that people are numbers, but this is indicative of a spike in executions that's somewhat unusual, but it shouldn't be necessarily unexpected. Most of the people being executed are being killed for crimes committed decades ago. And what is unusual is in this week, where we've seen executions in the past 7 days in Indiana and Missouri and Florida and Mississippi. And there was going to be one in Texas, but that one was stayed. We're grateful for that. And now, of course, Arizona. But of all those states, this is the first one that's actually run by Democrats, a Democratic governor and a Democratic attorney general. And they had originally put a pause to executions. They've had one this year already. But it's kind of bizarre because they even ordered an inquiry into the question of the lethal injection process. And the person that did that inquiry came back and said, this is a flawed process. And then they didn't accept the report and they fired the investigator because they're just following the law. Even though they very clearly understood to stop it upon taking office, and I will say I'm blanking on his name now, but there was a man, actually the Shin ruling at the United States Supreme Court was based on his case that, he had evidence of innocence. In fact, the prosecutor or the person testifying or arguing before the U.S. Supreme Court in the Shin case argued that the evidence of his innocence was irrelevant to the question, which had to do with whether a person had access to federal appeals if around their malfeasance by their defense attorneys at the state level. And so that ruling came down, and then in the immediate election after that, they elected Democrats, and that allowed his defense attorneys to then go to the attorney general and the new governor and have a conversation about should we move forward with helping this person get off a death row. And they did, and he's been freed. And of course, that's a whole another story. They had the court proceeding. The judge set him free. They took him back, and what did they do? They went and instead of releasing him right there to his to his family and his attorneys. They took him to the bus station and dropped him off at the bus station, and people had to go out looking for him and find him walking on the streets. That's the space that we're in Arizona. On top of that, we have an organization in Arizona, Death Penalty Alternatives for Arizona. Unfortunately, the timing is off for Kat Jutras, the coordinator of that organization, and she is off being married this week. So mazel tov to Kat, but unfortunately that doesn't leave us with anybody that we know of to speak for the organization in Arizona today. But if there is anybody on the live streams or in the Zoom audience here that can authentically speak for the Arizona folks, please send us a note in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you. And they are doing an event on the ground at a coffee shop this morning, and we're trying to reach somebody there to see if they can join and just share what they're up to. If you see the Arizona Death Penalty Alternatives for Arizona social media, they've been promoting that event. So we're doing our best to be connective. Unfortunately, it's a bit too far for us to drive. As you know, we were on the ground outside the prison in Indiana and then in Missouri, and we're always allied with our friends and allies in Florida on the ground outside the prison there, and then just on Wednesday evening in Mississippi. So Arizona's a little bit too far for that drive, so we came home, and here we are. The context of today's execution also is, in addition to it being a record-setting year, on a path towards maybe more executions than we have seen since 2010, which was 46 executions. If we go back to 2009, it was 52 executions, and 2011 and 12 were 43 executions. So after today, we'll be at 39, and it's quite likely that we'll be somewhere in that mid-40s range by the end of the year. Again, and not about the numbers, but the fact that this is happening and this is increasing. And if Rob Dunham were here, he's not sure if he'll be able to make it this morning. He would also just point out that, this doesn't mean that things are getting worse. So what it means in terms of the death penalty itself, what it means is that, more states are catching up and executing people. And certainly there is a push from the current presidential administration to increase executions, and for the Department of Justice, so-called, to assist states in doing that. States are doing this on their own, it would seem, although there is what I would call a red state cabal of governors and attorneys general that are trying to do what they can to introduce some non-lethal punishments or crimes punishable by death, and to increase executions. And we can see that very clearly with what Governor DeSantis in Florida is doing, which, they just had their 14th execution, their 15th is scheduled, and their 16th, and there's time in the calendar for probably them to maybe even get to 18 or 19. We'll see. That's the context that we're in today. Increasing executions. So especially in a time like this, when we've had, after today, 5 executions in 7 days, it's going to be important for us to all, take care of ourselves, take a break a bit, find ways to connect and to rejuvenate. So we're trying to do that at Death Penalty Action. We encourage that, and hopefully later on we'll hear from Wendy Ramage to talk us through a little bit more about self-care, a little bit about that. But now I want to introduce somebody who actually is connected to Richard Djerf, who's being executed in just about 40 minutes or so, perhaps, and that's Jasmine. So Jasmine, if you're ready and available, please turn on your camera and unmute and join us. Welcome, and please introduce yourself and share what you were sharing with me earlier.
Yeah, so hello and good morning, even if not much is good this morning. Please excuse me for being in the car. I'm just on my way to another event starting in 50 minutes. So yeah, my name is Jasmin Plas, and I'm a member of the German Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. And my best friend on death row in Arizona has been good friends to Richard since 2017. So therefore, it was natural for me to provide support to Richard. And so I have been in contact with him lately. And as many of you perhaps know, he published a statement before about his deny to ask for clemency. And after I read this public statement, I remembered two of his sentences, which are, how could I look at those names, think about who they were and who they could have become, then ask that my life was spared. And the second is if I can't find a reason to spare my life, what reason would anyone else have? So after reading that, I just had to give him my personal answer to these statements. So I told him what Sister Helen Prejean once said, and she said every human being is worth more than the worst act of their life. No one can be defined by one action, and there is inherent worth in even the worst criminals. So I told him that every human being has the right to live, and there is a reason for every single living being on this earth and to live and to survive. So he is also part of the whole. His crime is part of the whole, and he has paid for it now for more than 30 years. So I asked him a counter question, and it was, what meaningful reason is there other than revenge and a broken justice system to take your life after 30 years in prison unnaturally? That's always the question I'm asking myself when the execution was set. So yeah, that was my counter question to him, and he is just a friendly person and a good friend to so many people on death row in Arizona, and he's a talented comic artist. I was told by my friends, so I just want to share some of his statements with you. He told me, and yeah, you will see and feel what a nice person he is. So he wrote me about his published statements, and I will read this from my paper. This is something that I had to say, and I have felt at peace since I finished writing it and then having it released. So it was special to me that he told me that he is at the end in peace. And I'm sorry. About the work of the associations to abolish the death penalty, he wrote to me, I appreciate what you and your organization does, and I hope you are successful sooner rather than later. And thank you so much for reaching out. It was yesterday in the evening he wrote it. I just get it in the morning because of the time difference to Germany. So he wrote his last mail to me, and it was, thank you for all your support. So at the end, I have just to say that he will always live in our hearts, and I can say that on behalf of all his friends from Arizona Death Row. And yeah, so I sent, as you now see, I sent a mail from Richard to Abe. And yeah, a lot of people will miss him. And now it's time to say thank you for your attention and for your support and for every vigil you did and you will do. And I'm grateful to be part of the panel today. Thank you.
Jasmine, we're grateful that you were able to make the time to be with us, and also for your activity with the German Coalition, which has been a tremendous supporter of this work. And I want to invite you just for a moment to share about the German Coalition and the work that you all do, if you would like to.
Yes, so perhaps some of you know Gabi because she was a part of the panel before a few times. So we are an association in Germany and we have around about 100 members. We work especially for the USA and we support death row prisoners with pen pals and with books for reading for fun and for their cases to get a little bit more knowledge. And yeah, so we want to make the facts about the death penalty more public, even in Germany, if there is no death penalty anymore in Germany. So the most people think it's not my topic because in Germany there is no death penalty anymore, but I think it's a worldwide problem and we should support even from Germany in all the world to abolish the death penalty one day, hopefully.
Well, Jasmine, I want to invite you to. We always have folks from the German Coalition on and people from Europe. So, if I may, I'd like to invite you to address everyone in German for just a moment, a greeting and a appreciation.
Okay, so it's really confusing to speak German now, but ja, an alle aus Deutschland, die gerade teilnehmen, ich danke euch allen für euren Support, an alle Mitglieder der IGT und an alle, die nicht Mitglieder sind, aber dennoch für die Abschaffung der Todesstrafe kämpfen. Macht weiter, tragt es raus in die Welt, dass diese Strafe einfach unmenschlich und unwürdig ist und jeder das Recht auf Leben hat. Und ich bedanke mich für eure Teilnahme heute Abend und auch für die Unterstützung für Richard und für alle anderen, die leider diese grausame Strafe bekommen. Und genau, ich werde jetzt zu Jens Söring ins Event starten und wünsche euch trotzdem noch einen guten Tag.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We're grateful for you
Thank
being with
you.
us and for everybody from the German Coalition and everybody around the world that is helping to put a face on people that are facing execution and being friends to them and recognizing their humanity. So we're grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
And now I'd like to welcome Nicole, if you're ready to join the panel. Let's see if I'm going to send here we are. And send there's a woman that's been corresponding with us regularly and helping us at Death Penalty Action understand some of the language that might be preferred around, or more accurate, I should say, around people with mental health issues. And so we're grateful, Nicole, for your admonishing us and correcting us. And sorry, we don't always get to it in a timely way when you offer suggestions for changes, but we're glad that you're a regular in the audience on these Zoom vigils. And if you're on a phone, I want to invite you to turn it sideways, and we'll see if that fits the program. Yeah, if that fits the format better. And welcome. Nicole Corrado, could you introduce yourself a little bit more and share some of what you know about Richard?
Hi, I'm Nicole Corrado. I am on the autism spectrum, and I'm also studying theology, and one of the reasons I want to go into theology is because I want to start an autism ministry. I don't know Richard personally, but I can certainly speak as a person on the autism spectrum. I live in Montreal, Canada, and again, like in Germany, Canada does not have the death penalty. We abolished it ages ago, back in I think the 1960s. First thing I will say is that people on the autism spectrum are far more likely to be victims of violence rather than perpetrators. It's very, very rare for a person on the autism spectrum to be perpetrating really violent crimes. So it makes me wonder if he was in fact guilty. It makes me wonder what would have led him to do what he allegedly did, because autistic people tend to be very sensitive. This always bothers me so much about these executions. Part of it's because I am very sensitive. I care about people. People on the autism spectrum tend to have more empathy and actually almost have too much of it. So I do wonder what might have happened to Richard to lead him to allegedly do what he did, if he indeed did that. I wonder what caused the brain injury, if that might have changed things. And, you know, he was diagnosed late in life, so that makes me think that he would not have received any of the supports he needed in school. So he wouldn't have necessarily done as well as some other people. And it seems like in every single serious crime case, and even minor crimes, except for white collar crimes, most crimes are based in poverty and based in the person does not have the right support services they have needed as children. They didn't have a good upbringing. Even if their parents were good, there was not the supports that they needed, and that's what led them down the wrong path. I don't think that he would have turned out the way he did had he had those supports. And I think that it's terrible that instead of helping him get those supports now, the state is just taking the easy way out and killing him. In Canada, there was a terrible, terrible incident in 2018 where a man who happened to be autistic ran over a bunch of women because he didn't like women. That was in Toronto in 2018. But he's not executed. He went to jail, and he will probably in 25 years get out. And sometimes, you know, a prison should instead of being punishment, we should be looking at prisons as ways to help people turn their lives around. And, you know, it makes me really sad. The other thing I would say is that execution would actually be a cruel and unusual punishment for a person on the autism spectrum because anesthesia works differently often in autistic people because of the high level of anxiety in an autistic person. A person on the autism spectrum actually requires more anesthesia. Plus, they often will not respond as well. So they may wake up, they may seem asleep, but actually wake up. So he could suffer quite a bit in trying to anesthetize him. And, you know, if they keep failing the anesthetic, he's going to feel the paralytic drugs. He's going to feel like he's drowning. It could be quite torturous. So that's something that they haven't even taken into consideration, and they probably don't even care about. You know, it seems, you know, autistic people are accused of lacking empathy, but it seems like in these death penalty cases, it seems like these states absolutely have no empathy. And, I can say as an autistic person, I have a whole lot of empathy, and this kind of thing is just unacceptable. But, that's the thing. We need to keep stopping these executions from happening. I think that, a person with an intellectual disability cannot be executed, even though that still happens. I think there should be really solid laws to ban the death penalty, but the first step, I think, would be to make it illegal to execute anyone with any kind of mental health condition, developmental disability, or intellectual disability, and actually enshrine that into law, and possibly have something similar to the process you have for young offenders, but adapt that for vulnerable offenders and expand that to all vulnerable offenders. Of course, everybody who commits a crime, I believe, is vulnerable, unless it's a white collar crime that's done for financial gain. Do you have any questions for me about the cases? About anything?
Actually, Nicole, that's been very thorough. I do want to say that Abu has added a question in the chat. He's asking, would barbiturates like pentobarbital also work differently for people with autism? I think
I
that's what
think
they're
they would.
using.
I think they probably would. I don't know. I don't have any scientific papers on me, but I imagine they would.
Well, they are using pentobarbital in Arizona. So
Yeah, so I think that it probably would react differently because the neurology is different. I would think that any drug that's meant to react to the brain will work differently in an autistic person. I can imagine it would not have been trialed in autistic people. It would have been trialed in, because all the drug trials are usually trialed in people who are healthy when they do the clinical trials. And of course, autism is not a health problem. Autistic people are healthy, but the trials are all done in people who don't have any conditions. So I don't think they really know how a person on the autism spectrum who also had acquired brain injury is necessarily going to respond. I wouldn't know, but I would hypothesize that he might respond differently.
well, thank you, Nicole. Please feel free to just turn on your camera again if you want to comment more as we go through this morning. But we're grateful for you taking the time to be with us every time, it seems, and also for your feedback and support as we address these executions when it comes to people that you know about. So, or rather, people whose conditions you know about. Lindsay has put in the chat some words from Richard, and he's saying, I've done my best to make amends and I'm at peace with this. When this is over, I hope the focus will change from what horrible things I did to the Luna family to something more positive about who they were. Damien Javier Luna, Rochelle Lynn Luna, Patricia Valdez Luna, Albert Beltran Luna Sr. And those are the names that should be remembered, not mine. This was sent from him to the media. And I think that somebody referenced that a few minutes ago, Jasmine did. And she is sharing that she is very opposed to the death penalty, but I also think we should consider and honor his wishes, which of course we did. As you know, we always start our programs with a remembrance of the victims, as Cantor Zusman so ably does. We are joined now by Rob Dunham from the Death Penalty Policy Project. So Rob, you can fill us in a little bit on what's happening in Arizona, as well as the broader context this week. We shared about that a little while ago I did, from a death penalty action perspective. And I also want to say, just in the wake of Nicole's commentary about, executions and the possibility. Rob, I don't know if you heard it, but Nicole was sharing that people on the autism spectrum might react differently to the drugs used for lethal injection. I'm not too sure. I don't know anything about that, but I will say for us, for death penalty action, it's not about how we kill our prisoners, but that we do so when the system is as broken as it is. And truly, it so often seems as if the cruelty is the point. But I will also say that when we see prisoners not fighting, in fact, having been there for decades, in a way, this is a release for them. I firmly believe that it's a way for them to move on, and as Richard is stating, maybe perhaps to give some comfort to the people who were so wronged. Anyway, welcome, Rob. Thanks for being with us again.
Sure, thank you, Abe. You know, the phenomenon of quote volunteers as individuals who waive their appeals and permit their execution to go forward unopposed. That phenomenon has a lot of there are a lot of things that go along with that. I have represented people who attempted to waive their rights, and some of them did so successfully, and some of them changed their minds. And the studies that have been done show that the individuals who have volunteered to be executed share characteristics in common with people who have committed suicide. They tend to have a history of mental health issues, tend to have a long history of having been psychologically or emotionally abused, and I think in a very real sense, the sort of you want to get over it, you want to end your time in prison. You want a release from the conditions on death row. That leads to choices that are not free choices. It's an extraordinarily coercive and corrosive environment, and most of the volunteers are people who are looking for some form of escape. I think it is noteworthy that just under 10% of the executions in the United States have been people who have waived their rights. And again, they share the characteristics, the same demographic characteristics as people who in American society commit suicide as a whole. They're overwhelmingly white, they're overwhelmingly male. I think that should lead us to a presumption that these are not voluntary waivers. Now, in this case, we had a defendant who waived his rights at trial, and so from the outset, he was essentially committing court-aided self-termination. You can call it suicide, you can call it something else, you can call it acceptance of responsibility, whatever you want to call it. But this is not somebody who gave up initially because of the coercive conditions of confinement. This is somebody who already at the time of trial was waiving his rights. I was just doing some data for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Well, now they're just the Legal Defense Fund for the upcoming Death Row USA, and we've begun tracking the number of volunteers who have been executed. I've looked at that now from states in which the death penalty has since been abolished and states in which the death penalty still exists. In the states in which the death penalty was abolished, 15% of the people who were executed were volunteers. From the people in which the death penalty still exists, it's 9%. And in many of the abolitionist states, the only people who were executed were people who had waived their rights and volunteered to be executed. In the states that have the death penalty, a disproportionate number of the people who were executed were the first ones to be executed in the jurisdiction, or the first ones to be executed after long periods in which there were no executions. So we see that the waiver of rights is something that very strongly distorts the legal process, and we can have very little confidence in the reliability of convictions and death verdicts in the cases of volunteers. One, because if they waive their rights at trial, we never know what the outcome would have been had their life conditions been properly before the jury. And two, with respect to the ones who waive their appeals, we don't know how many of those cases would have been overturned because of constitutional violations and the denials of the right to fair trial. We do know that nationwide over the last 50 years, the single most likely outcome of a capital case is that the conviction or death sentence is overturned because of prejudicial constitutional errors. And with 10% of the executions being in cases in which there were no reliable legal proceedings because of the waiver of rights, I think it's a fair assumption that a majority of these cases would not have resulted in executions had there been fair trials and had there been fair appeals. Now, I can't speak to the specific facts in this case, but the last two Arizona executions have been volunteers, and it strikes me that we're probably looking at highly unreliable legal proceedings.
Thank you for that, Rob. I wasn't aware that Richard was a volunteer so much as just not going to fight. But I guess he was looking at he represented himself at the sentencing phase of trial, and again, haven't had a whole lot of time to look deeply into his specifics of that. But that's all interesting and different information. So.
Yeah, and we've had some of these discussions in the past. The volunteer cases are extremely troubling because one of the goals always, I'm speaking from a death penalty lawyer's perspective, one of the goal always is to save your client's life and to preserve and raise all legal objections. But there's a second goal that's always present at the same time, because so many of the people who are on death row have been abused and powerless throughout their lives. One of the major goals of lawyers in the death penalty cases is to try to empower their clients to be able to make critical decisions, to have their choices respected. And when it comes to volunteers who are waiving their rights, those two very, very important goals are in conflict with one another. And that's why you see, from the lawyer's perspective, so much angst over how to react in situations like this.
Well, thank you. Don't go away. Nicole, do you want to come back, turn on your camera, and let's see, where can we? There we are. If you can't turn it, there you go. And you had done a little bit of quick research on this question of autism and barbiturates.
Yes, I just looked up the autism and barbiturates now, and he absolutely, it is cruel and unusual punishment to be using it, because in his case, he will not, this is not euthanasia. He will absolutely be feeling every minute. Barbiturates are actually a stimulant for autistic people, so he will actually be really hyper, and it'll make him panicked. So he will be hyper excited, he will be panicking, he will feel really, really, really anxious, and it's not going to anesthetize him at all. He probably will feel the final injection. He'll be panicking, literally fighting for his life, but not being able to, probably paralyzed and unable to move. It's absolute torture. But the other thing I was going to say, you mentioned that about suicidality and people dying by suicide, the rates of people on the autism spectrum dying by suicide is about 9 times more than the average person. So you suggested he might not have been suicidal, but my guess is he probably was. And because autistic people are far more prone to suicide than the average person. This is a very sad case. It seems like this man has had everything taken from him. Nobody has ever done anything good for him. He probably feels absolutely terrible for what he did. I don't know what his state of mind was when that incident happened over 30 years ago, but he must feel horrible about it.
That's
And
what he's been expressing in his statement. He expressed his remorse, I guess, from the time of trial.
oh, absolutely. And I don't know if maybe he had psychosis or something when that incident happened, because it doesn't seem like it would be very typical of a person on the autism spectrum to have behaved the way he did, but he also had brain injury, so I don't know how that affected him, but it clearly did. But I think that he probably has experienced suicidality, and he probably did feel that this would be the only way out. Plus, in prison, I'm sure he's probably treated terribly. I can imagine that a person on the autism spectrum would be bullied and tortured by the other prisoners. I imagine they would be really poorly treated by other people. In some ways, it'd be easier in that they have a routine every day, but they've taken away all their choices, and the only thing he'd have autonomy over would be his own life. So if I could understand where he would have felt painted into a corner.
Well, clear. Well,
Yeah.
Rob, do you have
And
anything you want to add? And Nicole, thanks again so much.
yeah, I think that that's really insightful. And the autism has both psychological and physiological manifestations. And I think it was really instructive how autism could play into the choice about whether to pursue appeals or not pursue appeals. It's also very important with respect to the question of method of execution. The United States Supreme Court is not receptive to challenges to methods of execution. And they're certainly not going to say that that lethal injection is per se cruel and unusual punishment. They're not going to say that lethal injection with pentobarbital is automatically cruel and unusual punishment. But there have been some very interesting, and interesting is a hard word to use there, but some important issues about the constitutionality of particular execution methods as applied to individual defendants. So we've had some challenges to use of lethal injection for prisoners who had blood cysts in their throat, saying that the cysts could burst and they might end up being executed by being drowned in their own blood. The fact that there is a different physiological reaction by individuals who are autistic or on the spectrum is a powerful reason why the courts should be paying more attention to these as applied challenges. We know they're not going to succeed because this United States Supreme Court is not going to is not going to grant relief on them. It hasn't on any of them, and it's always come up with some reason or another not to ultimately reach the issue. If you designate a particular method of execution, then you will have been deemed to have waived your rights. If you designate, and you're required to designate a method of execution in order to challenge the method the state is using. If you don't designate a method of execution, then you don't get a challenge. You don't get to challenge what's happening. If you do designate it, you're often deemed to have waived your challenge to the method you've chosen. And so it's a catch-22. But here, what's so critical is that it's medically inappropriate to prescribe pentobarbital or other barbiturates to an individual who has autism. And if it's medically inappropriate to do so, then it should be inappropriate to use that as a way of terminating that person's life. This is a very questionable case to begin with because of the absence of meaningful legal process brought about by the waiver of rights. But it's also a case that should be particularly troubling because it is very, very likely that the method of execution that Arizona is going to move forward with will be highly torturous.
I guess we'll see what we see on the other side of this thing. Thank you for that, Rob. We're going to transition to a more prayerful space as we approach the hour. So let's have a song from Brandon Pfeiffer.
Oh, where is this justice? Where's the justice we need? Tell me, where is this justice we all want to see? And when I marched in the street, I began to see, I saw that the justice we need is the justice that needs me. And tell me, where is the healing? Where's the healing we need?
It looks like we've got a little hang up there.
Sorry, the music froze.
Well, I've got it set up here as well.
Tell me, where is this healing we all want to see? And when I turn on my TV, I still see so much dis-ease. I see that the healing we need is the healing that needs me. Tell me, where is the peace that we need? Oh, please, where is the peace that we all want to see? So I phoned an old friend. I said, I am sorry for the grief. I know that the peace that we need need, and I know that the healing we need, and I see that the justice we need is the justice that needs me and you and me and you and me and you and me.
Hello everyone. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name's Janet Walsh. I'm a Christian believer. I live near Manchester in the UK, and the last executions here were carried out back in 1964. That's over 60 years ago, and the death penalty abolished in 1969. Jesus has filled my heart with compassion for everyone on death row, and I'm standing here with you today in Vigil for Richard Djerf. This is my prayer for him. Some verses from Psalm 57. Have mercy on me, O God, have mercy on me, for in you my soul takes refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings. I cry out to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me, a God who sends his love and his faithfulness. So, Father God, we thank you for the goodness and mercy that you have for each one of us. Thank you that we can take refuge in the shadow of your wings and for the plans and purposes that you have for each of our lives. I cry out to you today for Richard and ask you to surround him with your love. Draw him close in the shadow of your wings and help him to take refuge in you. Thank you for the amazing purpose that you have given to him through these many years of his imprisonment. Come, Holy Spirit, and fill him with your special peace, and take him quickly to be with you, Jesus, in glory. For Richard's family and friends, I pray for an amazing awareness of your presence, Almighty God, with them, your love for them, and the shared grief at the way he's being so cruelly taken away from you. In the book of Isaiah, the Lord says, "These people come near to me with their mouth and honour me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." So, Governor Katie Hobbs, I pray that you will allow God to give you a new heart and change your heart of stone into a heart of flesh, and fill it with compassion for all those on death row who no longer pose any risk and could be allowed to live out their natural lives in prison. I also ask you, O God, to continue to bless, guide and strengthen each one of us as we press on towards the goal of complete abolition of the death penalty in the whole of the United States of America. And I offer up these prayers in the mighty and precious name of our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you yet again. Cantor Michael Zusman here with the over 4,000 members of L'chaim, which means to life, Jews Against the Death Penalty, a project of death penalty action. If you're watching this video, it means that one of 4 individuals, human beings, condemned to state murder is about to be put to death. They are Samuel Smithers in Florida, Lance Shockley in Missouri. They are Charles Crawford in Mississippi and Richard Djerf in Arizona. At this time, we turn our hearts toward them as they are being placed in the valley of the shadow of death by their respective states. This Psalm 23, in its original Hebrew, used in many traditions, invokes that valley of the shadow of death. We now turn our prayers towards Samuel, Lance, Charles, and Richard, as they are placed inhumanely in that valley. May they be comforted. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenachaleni, nafshi yeshover, ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלך בגיא צלמוות לא יירא רע, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי, דישנתה ושמן ראשי, דישנתה ושמן ראשי, דישנתה ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha,
the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learned to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha in myself, I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma in myself, I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha in myself, I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities, to embrace all beings and support their transformation.
Losing my discretion. I'm
Do you
tired
have another song
of
from
this
Brandon?
fight.
Charles, do you have something
Life
prayer
is
for us?
fragile.
You know, I've been fighting. I've been in this movement for a good part of 30 years. And fighting for my brother, I thought that would be the only execution that I would be involved in. I wouldn't know too much more about it. He never had a vigil, so we didn't have to go to my brother's vigil. I've been to so many after that, and I'm always associating his name, in that situation. And then taking this person that's going to be executed and seeing them get relief and not be executed. And I says, damn, it comes all the way down to life and death. These vigils are spiritual, man. It takes chunks out of me, serious chunks, because it keeps taking me back in those dark times to where I was actually helpless, penniless, at the mercy of the court. And that's what these guys are. They're victims. Because if they were wealthy and had the best attorneys, how do you know who's the best attorney? If they started sending some of these attorneys to death row with their clients, I don't think you'd see too many clients go to death row. It'd be a different type of fight. An attorney told me, my brother's attorney told me, you get what you pay for. And I could not believe that, because to me, it seemed like to him, my brother's life was worthless. And I'm seeing how these guys are being judged, no matter what's wrong with them, no matter how old they are, no matter whether they served our country. We have given permission for humans to kill humans. And now they're showing you that they will do it. And that's the power we have to take back from humans, is the power to kill humans. Because believe me, they're showing you they'll do it. So what is the punishment if it's not for the living? We keep going through this over and over. How many times does our minds, our hearts have to go through this? Because the other person, as Abe said, they kind of got relief. They've been able to go on, but we can't. So it's going to be up to us to keep our sanity and to stop this stuff and stop all the murdering and killing in our country. I mean, we've got a bad history of murdering our own people. And now I think we have to start just looking at more than just the death penalty, as I said before. We have to look at our history, and then we have to look at those leaders in the South who are descendants of people who've been killing people ever since this country started. This is not new bloodshed. It's just been repackaged. So you got to go back. Who are these people related to? What's going on here? That no matter how many times we come in and ask a governor to spare a person's life, it never works. Empathy? I don't get it. I don't get it. And it was my brother's sentence. You know, we didn't want a life sentence, but they spared his life. And man, to let you know how that feel. And then to watch these guys be executed. I don't know what to say.
You said it all. Allie?
I'm losing my discretion. I'm tired of this fight. Life is fragile. Life is fragile. I venerate the temple, then I say goodbye. Life is fragile. Life is fragile. But you are not random. You are loved. The matter is corrupted. Yeah, the argument seems lost. Life is fragile. Life is fragile. Fools like us keep reaching for the bottom of the cross. Life is fragile. Life is fragile. But you are not random. No, you are not random. No, you are not meaningless, not lost, not gone forever. No, you are not random. You matter. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved.
Oh, always those bandwidth issues. We're just at this point watching for a time of death announcement. Hopefully there are no struggles going on, but we'll continue to share some music and invite people to put your thoughts and prayers and such in the chat. And yeah.
Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Not in my name. Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Often in our world greed's winning. People take from others' hands. Even life there's too much danger. Someone's killed by any chance. Suspect is chased and arrested. Maybe guilty, but who knows? Verdict of a clueless jury. Death sentence the bailiff shows. Not in my name. Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Feeling with you hurt and grieving, hardly finding words to say. How could anyone endure which destiny you have to pay? Don't strike back, don't be revengeful. Seek forgiveness instead. Peace and freedom from within needs breaking circles of the dead. Not in my name. Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Light a candle for the victims, both of crimes and punishment. Peace and closure can't be found in violence being permanent. Seek for justice, practice mercy. Stop to execute for crime. Break the spell of hate and evil. Abolition, now it's time. Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Not in my name. Not in my name. Stop executions now. Light the flame of abolition. Make our world a better one. Make our world a peaceful one. Make our world a peaceful one.
Thank you for those who are not in the chat. That was our own Gabby from Germany, the German coalition. Ali's got another song for us as we wait to hear that the carried out.
Greetings. My name is Reverend Dr. Djerf Hood. For over a decade now, I have served as a spiritual advisor on death rows throughout our country. On multiple occasions, I have been there with persons who are about to be executed. In the last few weeks, I have given myself the opportunity to reflect on what that moment means. And the conclusion that I've come to is that that moment is a lot bigger than just a moment. You see, it is a long road that leads to the execution chamber. It winds through childhood. It winds through adolescence. It winds through all types of circumstances and places and people. Life is more than just a moment. It is a long road.
I'm all alone. Nobody's here. That room right there is the source of my fear. Nobody cared to show me the way. Surely a life is weighed by more than a day. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road. It's a long road. Stop all the staring, just let me be. Can't you? Just let me be. Can't you all see that I just want to be free? I didn't know how far this could go, but in my veins I feel the poison flow. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road. It's a long road. As my eyes start to close, this isn't right. Everyone knows, but nobody will fight. Where were you? Why didn't you say before it was through? Stop this today. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road to the end of the hall. It's a long road. It's a long road. Go on home, sleep in your bed. May the wrong of it all live in your head. I'm finally free, but the truth remains.
And now we're in a space of simply waiting for information as to what's happening, checking different news sources and such to look, who's covering. And obviously, they always take reporters' ability to communicate live. And Arizona has a history of actually barring certain reporters who's reporting that they don't like. So we'll get something from a TV reporter once they come out. There's so at least one that's witnessing. So we'll see where that goes. Appreciate everybody's comments in the chat and prayers and whatnot. And we'll continue to share. Actually, they do press conferences, just not the way like in Tennessee they broadcast them. Not the prison, but the TV is able to broadcast, and some other states do that too. In South Carolina, they did it. But you're right, I've not seen a broadcast press conference after the Arizona executions. I could be wrong about that. Charles?
I was just going to say, I was talking to somebody the other night, and we were talking about the executions, and it kind of got to the conversation as how can they rest in peace knowing that they've been murdered by the state? How can they? Because it's not like they said, okay, I'm ready, let's go, let's do it. You put their backs against the wall. And when you're talking about so many, they would say, well, don't you think that would be like a force? And I thought about that. It's like a force of spirits. And that force of spirits are going to force us to do something about it. And I believe when we do something about it, we can abolish it. We can totally get rid of it. Then I think those spirits can rest and move on. Because without those spirits, then we don't have that. We don't have that force. We're still here. We need something to compel us. And as we continue to sit here, the bodies can tend to mount up. Those spirits can mount up. And I think that's that force that's going to force us to make a move to do something. And, and I kind of agreed with that person. I said, wow, I never thought about it like that. Because we've got exonerees who knows what that feel like. Like I said, that's coming from death back to life. And then we've got that guy that did not get exonerated. His spirit is still there. It's looming and it's coming within us. And we're going to be enraged one day and we're going to do something and we're going to get it done. But that's what I believe. I think those spirits are our driving force.
Indeed. Thank you, Charles.
Let me pull it up on YouTube so it'll run smoother.
In the silence, tell me.
It's like we're all having bandwidth problems today. So,
No, I don't think it's the bandwidth. I think it's Microsoft OneDrive. We always have that problem.
I'll just say that we're grateful for Common Hymnal for lending us their music permission.
In the silence, tell me, can you hear voices calling out of the disappear? Broken spirits and dormant dreams. How much longer will justice sleep when the lawless heart is the voice we're hearing. We need freedom, freedom, freedom. How much longer till we sing a new song? How much longer till we sing a new song? Oh, yeah. Hearts of saints and sinners too, both have walked away from the destitute. Call them back, Lord, to sing as one. A song of freedom now, a song to overcome. In a lawless heart is the voice we're hearing. We need freedom, freedom, freedom. How much longer till we sing a new song? Till we sing a new song, till we sing a new song, yeah. How much longer? How much longer till we oh baby, yeah. Say Yahweh, I'm asking, Yahweh, I'm pleading, Yahweh, I'm praying, 'cause I know you know there's another hashtag with a name on it. Same story, do the fighting be in vain, Lord? We keep on hearing about the pain on it. I'm tired of crying, tired of yelling. My people keep dying. God, is you tweaking? Freedom is needed. This season ain't leaving. Look, people don't know what to say now. If fear be the way now, we do for a breakdown. So how much longer till we sing a new song? Yes. How much longer till we sing a new song? Yeah, how much longer? Saying how much longer? How much longer till we sing a new song? See, Yahweh, I'm asking, Yahweh, I'm reading, Yahweh, I'm praying. How much longer till we sing a new song? Yeah. We've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. Yeah. We've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. Yeah, we've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. New song, a new change and a new normal, yeah, a new song. Yeah, we've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. A new change, new season, new reality. Said I'm asking for a new song. No poverty, every part of me is wholeheartedly ready for a new song. Oh Lord, you know we need a new song. Yeah, so sing a new song. We've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. A new change and a new normal, yeah, a new song. Yeah, we've been singing the same song, I'm asking for a new song. Yeah.
I want to thank again Brandon Pfeiffer and Common Hymnal for allowing us to use their music as we continue to monitor and watch for word that the execution has been carried out. just checking various sources here, and invite others, if you hear of anything, to let us know. Do we have Gabi's new song available?
Yes, we do. Give me one sec.
Tonight a life will fade away, the silence heavy hearts still pray. For every tear that cannot fall, a candle's flame remembers on. The pain runs deep on either side, a mother's grief, a father's pride. Yet love can cross the prison gate, and light can heal the wounds of hate. Candle in the dark, we keep the vigil strong. For the lost, for the broken, for the right and the wrong. Let mercy guide the night, let compassion lead along. Candle in the dark, we will carry on. The bell is tolling through the night, a solemn call, a prayer for light. Yet in the sound hope still survives, a vow to guard all fragile lives. Candle in the dark, we keep the vigil strong. For the lost, for the broken, for the right and the wrong. Let mercy guide the night, let compassion lead along. Candle in the dark, we will carry on. May the ones who sign the fate feel the weight of the lives they take. May wisdom guide their hearts to see that mercy alone can set us all free. Candle in the dark, we keep the vigil strong. For the lost, for the broken, for the right and the wrong. Let mercy guide the night, let compassion lead along. Candle in the dark, we will carry on. We will carry on.
I'm seeing in chat here a reminder, or rather a discussion about executioners and where that's at. And, we've had a number of former executioners join our movement after leaving that work. I'll share with you, Charles and I were out in Arizona for the first execution when Arizona resumed executions now several years ago. And we were out there. They set up a little, actually, they'll actually set up a space, but they block off the roads to the prison, and there's a corner where people have gathered and hold signs and that sort of thing. So we were there with the folks from Arizona, and afterwards, after we all packed up and everybody left, we were looking for food, and there's a Chinese restaurant right there across the street from the prison where we were standing. So we chose to go in there, and the wait was going to be long. And so we said, okay, we'll go down the road. But a woman sitting there had said, well, no, this is good stuff. You should wait it out if you can. So we said, okay, we did. And didn't think much of it as we sat there in our t-shirts talking about what we'd just been through with another friend who had come over from California. And then this woman came over to us and she asked, hey, was there an execution today? And we said, yes. And, that's why we're here. And she said, I figured that. Well, I used to be a corrections officer here. And she said that that she came specifically for that restaurant. She's retired now. She was a little bit older, but she loved that place so much that she came back, and she comes to visit regularly. In any case, she shared that she had been a corrections officer and had been there for 7 executions while she was a corrections officer in a guard tower over the execution chamber. Now, the first of the 6 were lethal injections. But when Walter Legrand was executed, he was a German citizen, by the way, and the government of Germany was involved in trying to stop that execution. But he was executed using the gas chamber, like the actual using cyanide gas. If you look at our gas chamber petition, there's a link within that language to the execution protocol, and you can read about how horrific that actually is. There's 2 things. There's one is the execution protocol of what they do for a cyanide gas execution in an actual gas chamber, and then also what witnesses saw, affidavits from what witnesses saw in I think that execution. In any case, she shared with us that the other 6 had not been weighed on her so much, but she could still, she was over in a guard tower over where the execution chamber was. And she said for that one, she had to wear a gas mask herself, and she can still remember the screams. And that's the next day is when she asked to be reassigned to a different prison entirely. But she shared that with us. She wouldn't let me record it. She still supported the death penalty, but just not that method of execution. And this goes to the point of, the burden that we're asking corrections workers to take on when we ask them to carry out executions or to be present to them. It's awful. Of course, we have Ron McAndrew, who's been a supporter of our organization most of the time. Ron's a pretty big MAGA supporter, so he doesn't like it when we speak out about Donald Trump. But nevertheless, we continue to work with Ron when it makes sense. He and I were both featured in an article on Fox News about Ron's letter to President Biden urging him to commute all the federal death sentences. That was back when we were working to see that happen. So, it takes all types, and, there's many people among us who support the death penalty in concept, but not the practice of it, not giving government the power to carry out executions. For a long time, when I first changed my mind about the death penalty, I would say, but if we could make sure it's fair and equal and always got it right, then okay. And of course, for me, it was coming to understand the collateral damage of the death penalty, what it does to people, the victims, the families of the victim, the families of the people being executed and on death row, law enforcement people, and yes, also corrections workers, and the burdens that they take on. And we've seen that over and over again. The studies are, and there's been news reporting. Shiera Eisner from NPR did a big story, was a year and a half or 2 years ago now, in which she talked to over a dozen people who had participated in executions. And, alcohol, drug addiction, alcoholism, suicide are all common among that community of corrections workers who have participated in executions. So that's just a thing. I want to note, Allie has put in the chat some graphics that she has created. The Death Penalty Action is sharing for those people who are going to be participating in the No Kings demonstrations tomorrow. Again, we can't take a position on people running for office, but we can certainly educate people about the policies that they're implementing. And of course, we know that President Trump has been adamant in his advocacy for more executions. And we know, when we have known for a long time, his penchant for dictator-like power. And that includes, of course, the jealousy that he has from not being able to execute people the way they do in North Korea or China or Iran. And they still use that rhetoric. Now we're all Antifa, and they want to, and they've even declared they'll prosecute people simply for being opposed to their positions. So it's frightening. It's frightening, the space that we're in, and that's why government shouldn't have the power to kill, because we can see in fascist governments in history what happens when they get far enough along. So there we have that. Just refreshing my screen yet again to see if we have any news of this execution. I'm watching several Twitter feeds, as well as one of the news reporting agencies, azcentral.com. Have not seen any notice yet. The Catholic Mobilizing Network has been pretty good about sharing prayers and thoughts as they do sort of a Twitter vigil on each of these executions. They're quoting Isaiah, give comfort to my people, says your God. Isaiah 40, verse 1. While we were waiting, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again with this is the Death Penalty Action webpage. As we continue on, we have today, of course, is the execution of Richard Djerf. Next week in Alabama, the execution of Anthony Boyd, and as Lindsay and others have referred to in the comments, there's a new article out from Bolt magazine, that link is in the chat, about Anthony Boyd and his innocence claim. And there's ample evidence of conflicting eyewitness testimony, and that's really all they have is testimony of people that were also facing execution if they didn't point their finger at somebody. And that's how Anthony got one of the ways Anthony got that pinned on him. So we're amplifying that. We're inviting people to actually print that out and mail it to Governor Kay Ivey, like overnight it or fax it somehow to get it into their office in a way that they're not used to receiving stuff, so that they will think about it. But if we look further down, there was a meeting last night in Oklahoma about the execution that's coming up after the next Florida execution. So in November, we currently only have 2 executions scheduled. We'll see how Governor DeSantis handles executions around the holidays, but we could expect, certainly in Florida, a couple more executions this year, possibly. But we have the next one next week is Anthony Boyd, and then the week after that, Norman Grimm in Florida, and then Tremaine Wood. Tremaine has a whole campaign around him about his admonition that he was not, it's a law of parties case. He is not the actual killer, and yet he's facing execution. This is not a new thing. This happens regularly in this country. So that's a primary issue in Tremaine's case, and lots of people are organizing around that in Oklahoma, and then of course back to Florida, and then in Tennessee. And I'll remind you again that in Tennessee, anybody that's in proximity to Tennessee on that Sunday before that execution, we'll be doing a March for Mercy. So marching from the prison to the state capitol, as we do for every Tennessee execution, which are usually on Thursdays, the Sunday before. There's that march. It's 9 miles. It's pretty flat, so not terribly difficult, and people are welcome to come and join that effort. So think about that as something possible to do. And Lynn, maybe you can pull together a crowd from your church, your new church in Memphis, and come on over for the march. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay has put in the chat how you can overnight or fax Kay Ivey with that Bolts article, just as a way to try to wake them up there in Alabama. Let's hear another song from Brandon.
Said goodbye, turned around, and you were gone, gone, gone. Faded into the setting sun, slipped away. Oh, but I won't cry, 'cause I know I'll never be lonely. You are the stars to me. You are the light I follow. I'll see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me, oh, till I see you again. I can hear those echoes in the wind at night, calling me back in time, right back to you. Oh, in a place far away where the water meets the sky, the thought of it makes me smile, 'cause you are my tomorrow, and I'll see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me, oh, till I see you again. Sometimes I feel my heart is breaking, but I'll stay strong and I'll hold on, 'cause I know, yeah, 'cause I know, well, yeah, 'cause I know I will see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, I will see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, I will see you again. This is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, oh, till I see you again. Said goodbye, turned around, and you were gone.
It does look like the execution has been carried out. There will be a press conference apparently, and this is
InSinkErator garbage disposals are built to last. We're the only leading brand with heavy-duty DuraDrive induction motor.
now what we can't do is put on this broadcast too much of this because it's copywritten material. So we're going to, the link is in the chat. Ali, if you could share that on the social media. If we run this as part of our Zoom, then we could risk the whole thing being taken off of social media recording. So we're going to shut down at this time and invite you to watch on your own the press conference if you wish. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight, this morning. I'm sorry, being present to this. And luckily, we only have a few more executions scheduled so far this year, but one is next week, and that's Anthony Boyd with a strong innocence claim. So please keep Reverend Dr. Djerf Hood and Anthony and all of them in your prayers. Reverend Dr. Djerf Hood is Anthony's spiritual advisor. He'll be with him in the chamber if it does go forward. And of course, all the folks in Arizona, and I'm sorry, Alabama, including Esther Brown. But let you go, and you can find that chat to watch the press conference if you wish. The link is in the chat. Thanks so much for being with us. And to close this out, I'm going to share one of those people against the death penalty videos. So here comes that. And I'll show you where you can find that too. Let's see here. Yep. So this is death penalty action. You just go to the front page and scroll all the way down, and that is here. And let's today hear from Professor Rick Alprin.
It's just too easy for people who are looking at this from the outside to go, we got to get rid of the death penalty. It's as American as apple pie and the flag. It's a norm. You're up against 400 plus years of history of entrenchment where the norm, the American mindset is kill them. This country has always loved to punish people. Over 19,000 Americans from colonial America today have been put to death in this country. You know, we've released 191 people who were innocent, and they weren't released because of this system, they were released in spite of it. Any country that has the death penalty and uses it can never be good on human rights. The principles of tolerance, diversity, respect, dignity, rights. Most people in this country have never heard of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They couldn't even tell you what their own human rights are. There is no such thing as a lesser person. We either fundamentally believe that, or we make excuses why people can be abused, targeted, and killed with our approval or indifference. Because the most fundamental right that anybody in this world has is the right to a life with dignity. It's not just the right to life, it's the right to life with dignity. And when the state sentences people to death, it is a process of physical and psychological terror and torture which debases, degrades, and dehumanizes people and subjects them to abuse before they're killed. And that is a far cry from upholding anybody's dignity. It's arguably one of the most systemically racist institutions in the United States today, bar none. And anybody who supports the death penalty, and I mean political people, not average people that may not know about the death penalty, but if you're a politician and you keep supporting the death penalty as if you're tough on crime, you might as well put a sign around your neck that says, I'm a racist, because that's what the death penalty is. It is a war against the poor and overwhelmingly a class war against people of color, overwhelmingly.
How does that net out?
You know, African Americans go to death row for killing African Americans the way whites go to death row for killing whites. But white people who are found guilty of crimes against African Americans, homicides, rarely go to death row. They may go to prison. They may go to prison for the rest of their lives, but they're not going to be executed overwhelmingly. But in a death penalty state, if a person of color is convicted of a homicide against a white person, look out, because statistics bear it out state by state by state. They are X amount of times more likely to go to death row in that state because of the skin color of their victim who may have been white. It's just the reality of this country. We are a racist, brutally racist country still. We lived with slavery for 246 years. We lived with segregation for 89 years. Women didn't get the right to vote in this country until 1920. How can this country be good on other social justice issues globally or internally if most people aren't bothered by the fact that we're killing people in the name of the law, making mistakes and using skin color to justify it? It's mind-boggling where we're at here in 2023. It's mind-boggling.